So what if I told you that your future, it's already decided? I mean, everything. Every choice you think you're going to make, every win, every loss, it's all just a script that's already been written. Sounds a little crazy, right? Like something out of a movie. But today, we're going to dig into some genuinely shocking evidence from history, from neuroscience, even from physics, that suggests our future might not be as wide open as we like to think. Okay, let's just dive right in with the big question. The one I want you to keep in the back of your mind through this whole explainer. Is your life a path you're creating as you go, or are you just walking a path that's already there? To get started, let's look at a story that's as famous as it is chilling. We're going all the way back to the 1860s. We're in the White House, and a US president is having a dream that seriously haunted him. The man, of course, was Abraham Lincoln, and what he saw one night felt so real, it was more like a premonition. Can you even imagine that? Lincoln dreams he's wandering through the White House, and he can hear people sobbing. He follows the sound and ends up in the East Room, and right there in the middle is a casket. He asks a guard who died, and the guard just says, the president. And in that one moment, Lincoln realized he was dreaming about his own funeral. And this is where the story gets truly unsettling. Just a handful of days after telling his wife and a friend about this dream, Lincoln was shot and killed. So was it just a horrible coincidence? Or did some part of him deep down already know what was coming? This whole idea brings us right to the mysterious workings of our own minds. So, could it be? Could our brains have some kind of secret window into what's next? It sounds impossible, I know. But to even start to explore it, we have to understand the two very different ways our brain deals with, well, everything. See, your conscious brain, the part you're using right now to listen to me, it sees time as a straight line. You've got the past, the present, the future, one after the other. But your subconscious brain, the part that's running the show when you're asleep and dreaming, oh, it plays by a totally different set of rules. For your subconscious, time isn't a straight line at all. The past, present, and future can all just exist at once. It's why you can dream about being a kid 1 minute and then about something that hasn't even happened the next. Now, that's a really cool theory, right? But scientists, they wanted proof. They really wanted to know, does our brain actually act before our conscious mind makes a decision? This question led to a totally groundbreaking study called the Libet experiment. So here's the setup. It's pretty simple. A neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet hooked people up to brain scanners and just told them, press this button whenever you feel like it. He then measured 3 things. First, the exact moment the brain signal fired to move the finger. Second, the moment the person consciously decided to press the button. And third, the moment they actually pressed it. And the results were absolutely mind-blowing. The brain signal to push the button fired a few seconds before the person was even aware that they'd made a choice. Just let that sink in for a second. Your brain has already started an action while your conscious self still thinks it's calling the shots. It kind of suggests that our sense of free will might just be an illusion, right? A story we tell ourselves after our brain has already acted. You know, this idea that the future is already set in stone is definitely not new. For thousands of years, people have looked up at the stars for answers, believing our destiny is literally written in the cosmos. Let's take a quick look at astrology. So, astrology's whole premise is that the exact position of the planets when you were born can map out your entire future. And people who believe in it will point to some eerily accurate predictions, like an astrologer who supposedly foretold Narendra Modi's rise to Prime Minister of India years before it happened. But then, on the other hand, science chimes in with a big problem. The star charts and calculations that astrology uses are 2,000 years old. Our map of the universe was way different back then, and since the universe is always expanding, those ancient maps just aren't accurate anymore. Now, while science might be skeptical about astrology, it's actually a scientist who gives us the most powerful argument that the future might already be decided. And for this, we have to turn to one of the greatest minds in all of human history, Albert Einstein. Einstein's theory of relativity just completely flipped our whole understanding of time on its head. He proved that time isn't this fixed, universal clock that ticks at the same rate for everybody. No, instead, it's flexible, it's relative. It can actually be stretched and squeezed by things like gravity, and most importantly for us, speed. Einstein explained this with a brilliant, simple analogy. Think of all of time as a train. We are all passengers in the train car that's labeled present.
But just because we're in this car doesn't mean the other cars don't exist, right? There's a past car right behind us and a future car up ahead. His theory suggests that if we could just figure out how to walk between the cars, we could literally travel through time. Now, if you're thinking, okay, that's a cool analogy, but it's just a theory, well, hold on. This has actually been proven. Let me introduce you to Russian cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev. This guy spent a record-breaking 879 days up on the Mir space station, whipping around the Earth at an incredible speed. We're talking 17,500 miles per hour. So, when he finally came back down to Earth, scientists did something amazing. They compared his clock to the clocks that had been on the ground the whole time. And because he had been moving so incredibly fast for so long, time had literally slowed down for him. He was 0.02 seconds younger than he should have been. In a very real, measurable way, he had traveled 0.02 seconds into the future. All right, so we know tiny little jumps into the future are physically possible. But what about the big leaps, like the kind you see in movies? Well, physicists have some absolutely incredible theories about how we might one day find cosmic shortcuts through time. First up, we have the wormhole theory. Okay, imagine you need to drive 10 miles to get to school. But one day, someone builds a magical bridge that cuts the trip down to just 1 mile. You take the bridge, right? Of course you would. A wormhole is basically that, a cosmic bridge. It's a theoretical tunnel through the very fabric of space and time that could connect two really distant points, whether they're across the universe or across time itself. Now, there's this famous old story, and I have to say it's unverified, probably more of an urban legend, but it illustrates the idea perfectly. Supposedly, in 1955, a flight took off from New York, then just vanished from radar. Everyone assumed it crashed. But then, 37 years later, the exact same plane allegedly appeared out of thin air, landed briefly in Florida, and then took off again, disappearing for good. Could it have flown through a wormhole? It's a fun, spooky thought. Okay, if you thought wormholes were wild, get ready for cosmic string theory. This idea suggests that there are these massive, unbelievably dense threads, or strings, left over from the Big Bang, just whipping through space at nearly the speed of light. Now, if two of these strings happen to pass each other, they could warp space-time so much, kind of like two bowling balls rolling past each other on a giant trampoline, that they actually create a time loop, which could, theoretically, let you travel to any point in the past or future. So we've looked at dreams, brain science, and some pretty mind-bending physics. But there's one final theory that pulls all of this together in the most jaw-dropping way possible. It suggests our future isn't just decided, it's already been coded. You've probably heard this idea from Elon Musk. His argument is pretty simple. He says, look at the progress of video games. 40 years ago, we had Pong, just two rectangles and a dot. Now we have photorealistic 3D virtual worlds. If you just assume that that rate of progress continues, it becomes almost inevitable that some future civilization could create a simulation of reality that's completely indistinguishable from our own. We could just be characters in someone else's super advanced game. And you know what's really fascinating? This super modern, cutting-edge technological theory, it echoes wisdom from thousands of years ago. In the ancient Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, there's this core teaching that you should focus only on your actions in the present moment and not worry about the outcome, because the future is already determined. It is just a profound link between ancient philosophy and modern physics. From a president's dream to Einstein's mind-bending theories to the wild possibility that we're all living inside a giant simulation, the evidence is pretty compelling, you have to admit. So I'm going to end by throwing the question back to you. What do you think? Are we the authors of our own destiny? Or are we just turning the pages of a book that's already been written? It's an incredible thing to think about.